Hey, I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Jessica. I got into urban farming after I finished my master's degree in political science and environmental studies. Fresh City Farms, so the farm that's our umbrella organization, had a posting for associate member farmers. So I did a lot of volunteer work. That was starting October last year. So it's been a year actually that I've been involved with Fresh City. And at the end of the season, so end of the winter, I was offered a plot. I also work with Fresh City, so I had an additional piece of land and had to think about what I was going to do with all of it. And then that's when the conversation with Caitlin happened. So I'd been involved for a little while before we decided to do the herb farm. And it was mostly just out of, I want to do something different. I don't want to be working in an office, and I love being outside. And it's been a wonderful summer of learning, of challenges, and of just being around a lot of beauty.
I'm just finishing up my master's degree as well, environmental studies at York. It's also my first season farming. I've helped out here and there on farms and also been growing food since I can remember, but just for myself and to share. We met doing a volunteer project at the High Park Children's Garden and involved with Garden Jane, who's a local permaculture gardening entrepreneur. And that I was doing that as part of my school, and
I was just interested. I was just hoping to kind of learn a little bit more, and then I met all these amazing people. Farming's always been important. We've always lived off the land, but farming has changed significantly to one that is becoming more and more mechanized. And I think we're seeing more people taking that back and wanting to see where their food comes from. The ability to do that is still something that's very privileged, and I think that needs to be recognized. And that I have the space and the time and a very supportive partner that allows me to be an urban farmer, because I couldn't do it otherwise. But the learning of the food and the talking to people about food has been an amazing experience and a very soul-affirming experience. And I think will become more and more common as we recognize that bringing our food in from every corner of the world just doesn't really make sense. And exporting some of our food only to bring the same food back from somewhere else just doesn't really make sense. So Sage Rising, the name came from after a bit of brainstorming, and we thought about what was in our plot, first of all. And sage was the first herb that we sold to Fresh City, the first fresh one. Sage kind of also reflects wisdom and reflects kind of a broader knowledge, and we didn't want to be too getting ahead of ourselves. So our knowledge is actually still developing. So how do we fit these together? And that's how we came to Sage Rising, that we're rising to the challenge of acquiring knowledge about what we're doing and the plants that we're working with. And we quite like the name Sage Rising. It has a kind of an interesting tone to it, and yeah. So our partnership is one that's been developing very much organically and based on open communication, and we made that conscious decision early on in the partnership. So when Caitlin came to me with her dream and I came back to her with a piece of land, and we got together again, we very much talked about how important it was to be able to tell each other where we're at.
if we're using nature as our model, if we're ecological farmers, I mean, nature changes, nature's flexible, and all the elements of nature need to be adaptable. And as farmers working with nature, we need to be that, because if we're rigid, we're going to fail. We need to be ready to adapt and change. And we feel that having that trust and having that communication is really the way to have that strength rather than a stability.
So our achievements this summer, this season, there have been a few, and some of them that we've been really proud of is that we've sold our fresh herbs to Fresh City Farms each week to their CSA, and we had created a herb CSA within Fresh City and increased our number of subscribers from none to 33, which is actually quite a significant jump given the number of subscribers we have within Fresh City. So that was very exciting. And we also started to build relationships and with other vendors. So we were at the Vegetarian Food Fair, which was a very exciting fair because that was a great chance for us to really stretch our legs and try out what we've been creating. We were at the John Street Farmers Market, another great opportunity to get feedback. And we sold to Karma Co-op, which has been a good experience in connecting with retailers, which is something that maybe in the future we want to expand to do more of. So it's kind of like we put our toes into a whole bunch of different ponds and starting to learn a little bit about each of them and expand.
We did a bit of selling to a few restaurants too through Fresh City,
yes.
But that's something we'd like to explore more for the future. And then building our own relationship through that, which is, again, really important, and kind of the only rule or guideline that we have is to have this trust relationship with each other and this communication. For next year, what we do know is we both want to keep farming together, if at all possible. And beyond that, right now, we're just taking in everything that we've learned, everything that we've been able to do in our first season, and just really taking that energy inward and reflecting. Our long-term dreams are that we'd love to keep it going. We'd love to grow it while still fitting within our values and what we think is important. And keep experimenting and keep learning. And for myself personally, I'm totally passionate and jazzed and excited about this work. I'd really like to explore creative ways to have a herbal business and a herbal farm in the future, but also incorporating some other things that I'm passionate about doing, which include community education, community resilience building, and a little bit of homesteading, maybe a little bit of self-sufficiency. You know, I'd love to have a farm where I lived, really. A herb farm, which is just beautiful and ecological, and a space that people just really want to be in to do art, do music, do education, have a special event.
I would love to keep on growing as long as I can because I genuinely really enjoy it, and as Caitlin was saying, incorporate my other interest into it and my other kind of area of study. And what else I do outside the farm is I work in therapeutic horticulture, so working with different populations to support their wellness through plants. And I'm currently studying that at the Royal Botanical Gardens. So I'd love to be able to bring kind of the herb farm, which makes a lot of sense. The textures, the smells, the healing properties of a lot of these plants, and incorporating them with supporting people's wellness. Right now, I specifically work with people who experience severe mental illness, but I hope to expand the different populations I work with, and see kind of where it takes me. My long-term goals for the future is to be open as possible and see where it goes.
Here we are in spring 2013, early spring, and we're just getting our work done for the spring, for the farm. We're very excited because we're trying out a new farm model this year, and the farm model that we're trying is a series of backyard, we're calling them micro farms. So these are farms that are in partnership with homeowners in the community. So basically what we do is we look for people who are interested in giving us a bunch of their backyard space to grow commercial herbs for Sage Rising. And in addition to that space, we will create a small garden for the homeowner that contains all veggies of their choice. So they can just go in there and harvest whenever they like. And we also invite them to get involved as much or as little as they feel comfortable with, and to share knowledge in the project. So we're really hoping that this new model is going to help us get roots in our community. So it's a barter-based relationship, basically. And this year we have 3 yards. So here we are in one of them. This is actually my home space. And we have 2 other yards as well. And we're looking forward to a very exciting season and building these relationships with these homeowners and also our neighbors in our community. We are developing relationships also with purchasers in our community. So we hope to grow the food in partnership with community members and then sell it at farmers markets, as well as at West End Food Co-op and at Culinarium, which is a local food delivery box. So these are all things that are in our community, and we want the whole production process from planting all the way to eating to be happening right here in downtown Toronto. We've got a grant from the Carrot Cash, which is through the Carrot Common Grocery Co-op. And that grant gives us the money to do the seasonal upstart that we need. It's always a challenge at the beginning of the season for farmers, and this year, because we're transitioning to this new model, we have some extra costs. So we have that grant, we're very grateful for it, and we have a few others in the works, and we're hoping that we can get the funding that we need to really grow this as much as possible this year and keep growing it in future years.